Well, good morning and welcome to my first effort at the intro to entrepreneurship class. Now, the good news is that my first effort at teaching, so that's good for all of us. But so the intro to entrepreneurship class, which I'm only going to say one more time because that's really hard to say all in a row, is the purpose is to kind of get us all started on how to start and run a business. And this was created first actually for the Spanish community here in Joliet, in connection with our friends at LEDA. And so it was developed in between LEDA and Joliet Junior College. It was run for the Spanish community first. And then we started doing it for English speaking community and obviously the bilingual community. And now we're running them sort of simultaneously. Matter of fact, I'm teaching this here today in Joliet and I'm teaching it tonight in Morris. So we're trying to keep this going. And I think as we go forward, because we've been blessed to become more and more busy in the JJC Entrepreneurship Business Center, we'll probably maybe have this our first introduction for entrepreneurs because clearly one of our missions, and I'll talk more about that, is to have one-on-one consulting with our clients. But this is a great start. So as we get busier, we may say, okay, we're going to get you hooked up with an advisor, but let's go through the class first so you can kind of get a start. So this is obviously a 4-week series that you guys have signed up for. It's no cost, but there's a lot more value than you're paying. Trust me. So we're going to step through a series of, series of pieces in the series. So let me try to go through this one at a time. This isn't as easy as it looks, Chris. So do I have to hit the button over here?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So there's a 4-part series. The first one is kind of the introduction to business, which it's actually more in depth than that today than you think. And then we're going to talk about business planning and legal structure. We're going to talk about marketing and employees, marketing probably even more so than employees. And then finally, we're going to get into banking and financial statements and financing, because I would say overwhelmingly the most important things we hear from clients is I want to start a business and can I have some money, which that makes sense. So to kind of work backwards a little bit, I'll tell you a bit about myself and about the Entrepreneur Business Center. My name's Jeff Schultes. I've been with the Entrepreneur Business Center for a year, and but that isn't where I started. I actually started many years ago as an engineer working at ComEd, which makes no sense for me to be standing here today. But through my time at ComEd, I was blessed to go to school to get a master's degree, and that master's degree led me to teaching here at JJC 15 years ago. I've been teaching here at night in the business department. I teach entrepreneurship, I teach human relations, and I teach principles of management. So all of which kind of play into the notion of human beings starting a business. Now, even better, 21 years ago, I actually started a business. And now I have 2. They do the same thing. It's a long story. Maybe I'll tell you if we have time to kill. But I'm actually, I have an energy consulting firm. So I left ComEd 24 years ago. I went to work for an engineering firm. And from my work at the engineering firm, another employee and I, who also worked for me at ComEd at one time, we started an energy consulting firm, which we've had for the last 21 years. So I've started a business, I've run a business, I've made all the mistakes you can think of. So I'm like a parent, really, raising children. I can tell you all the things not to do in starting a business. And so, because I've pretty much done them. And I'm not saying I'm not still doing them. So I can tell you what not to do. So I have a lot of experience that way. Now, a year ago, I was looking through my JJC email, and there was this ad for an email for a business advisor part-time in the Entrepreneur Business Center. I didn't even know we had an Entrepreneur Business Center, which is probably my fault more than anybody's. So they wanted somebody who lived in Grundy County because we're trying to expand our footprint out of Joliet. Everybody thinks Joliet Junior College is in Joliet. Our footprint is massive. I mean, we go a long, long way. Dwight on the south, way north, way east. And so they're trying to, and actually in going west, nobody really knew we existed out there for the most part. And I taught classes out there a couple of times, but everybody thinks Morris is so far from here. And it took me about 20 minutes to get here today. So it's not that far. So I signed up to interview for the job, and I got it. And so for the last year, I've been helping people start and run small businesses. And it has been one of the most fun things I've done in my 42-year career. It's been a blast. So I do bring something to the table here. And also the great news is that we have a great team here at the EBC. Over the last year, we've gone from Brian Kincaid, who's the manager. He was alone here. I was the second employee, and I was part-time. And in that time, we've added Chris Griffin, who's taking my picture right now. Chris's specialty is web design. She also does work in social media. We also hired a full-time employee, excuse me, Fatina Sayeg. Fatina's background is she was in commercial real estate. She also had a consulting firm that did small business consulting, particularly web design. And then we also, and she'll probably come in here in a little while, we've recently added another employee, another part-time employee like Chris. Her name's Bella. Bella is actually going to school at Western Illinois University for a major in business and business analytics. And she's also going to be helping us out in the EBC. We're actually interviewing right now for 2 more part-time positions because we have grown exponentially in the last year with clients. It's been a blast. We've had a lot of new people start. They walk in the door, and we had actually it was about, well, I've been here a little over a year now. I think like my second week, a woman walked in the door. She said her dream was to start a sewing cafe, and she was retired, but she loved to sew, and she wanted to help the community learn how to sew. So she said, I don't know what to do. So we started talking. By the end of summer, she had a space in downtown Joliet. Her husband is as handy as they come. They built out the space. It's right across the Marialto in the Crystal Building. It's called the Sewing Cafe on the 3rd floor. It is beautiful. And now, not only is she holding classes there, she's already, one of her students is now back at us, starting their own business in sewing. Actually, hers is embroidery in particular. So it's been this beautiful sort of one thing begets another, and all of our clients are helping one another. I've got another client who's opening a barber shop, a young lady, and one of the other clients is a general contractor. He's going to do the build out of a barber shop. So everybody's working together. It's been a blast. Really been a lot of fun. So I think we can do a lot of great things here, and we're here to obviously help you guys as well. And that's where this class kicks off. So we're going to talk about how to start a business and all the things we see here in the series. And along the way, please just ask questions. I'm going to ask about you guys in about 2 seconds, so I can hear more about your story. But that's what we're about here, is really helping you guys start and run businesses. So we're thrilled to be here. We're headquartered here at the city center, but we're expanding. I'm working in Morris tonight, obviously, and we welcome people from everywhere, and we can meet virtually, obviously, in person here at the city center. This is going to be the biggest challenge today, is me going back and forth between these. So the agenda today, we're going to talk about basically the idea. How do you come up with these things? Where you're starting? What you want your business model to be? And it sounds a little like, well, what's the business model? We'll talk about that. I got to admit, I didn't really think about it when I started my business because it was kind of ingrained in me from the work I've been doing. But I realize now that a lot of the things I teach too, a lot of it's common sense to a lot of us. But when you formalize it and put words to it and talk about people who've studied it, it's like, oh, now I know why I'm doing that. We're going to start with why. Why are we doing this? Why are we starting this company? We're going to talk a little bit about your pitch. How do you explain this to people? I always say, my business partner and I, we're talking about things. How are we going to explain this? We would say, well, let's go talk to somebody in our family who doesn't know anything about it. If we can explain it to them and they get it, then because sometimes you're so close to things, you try to explain it and it sounds like word salad. So the pitch is important. Then the basic steps to get started, which we go through with all of our clients. We're going to talk briefly about a business plan today, but that's going to be really the focus of the next piece. And between now and then, we'll send you, it's literally a paint by numbers business plan. It has blanks in it, and it has a whole nother document that says what to put in the blank. So we'll help you through that. There's financial pieces. So it's a lot of fun. And that's what some of your homework will be. Believe me, I'm not going to grade it. So it's okay. We're all busy here. So, but we want you to be able to work forward to the next part too. This is where you come in, as I jump back and forth between machines here. Okay, so I'm going to go around the room. I'd ask for volunteers, but it's easier for me to go around the room and in a somewhat logical way, because after teaching for 15 years, I can get students to talk. I think you guys would be a little more open to this. Tell us a little bit about yourself, really kind of why you're here. What are you starting? What are you thinking about starting? And that'll help me direct questions, and I love the conversation as much as I do yapping up here. So feel free to ask questions along the way. So let's start in front. We'll start with Josie, because I can see your name really well.
Just left. I baker for 30 years, and now that my kids are older, I decided to do it on the 100% as a small business. I started it last September. But what I started to realize is I needed more help trying to navigate some of the processes, and this is exactly why I came to JJC. So I bake like 16 hours a day, and then I social media another 10 hours a week, and then I attend events. I'll be at artisan markets and things like that just to start promoting. But currently I'm only in the home baker phase, got cottage food law, and then I'm trying to evolve out of that eventually through more training and support. So that's us. Say hi, babe.
I'm here to support.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, me is Dalai here. I'm by myself. I was customer service. I work with different hospital. Background business. I was in the headquarters of the National Organization for Albanese and Implementation. Coming to United States, make me with the Peace Corps American and the United Agency for the International Development. We meet NOAA, the National Organization for Albanese and Implementation. Now, when I came to United States 20 years, I was working for myself, doing my home things. Now I just create a non-for-profit organization.
Okay.
We are a charitable organization. I'm here today to learn how to manage a business, but we are operating overseas in Africa. We are doing school education, cancer prevention for albinos like me with the skin. We are giving sunscreen. We are educated, and we are doing generative activities from generation of revenue, make them make money, teaching them how to work, how to make money, because they can go do construction, they can work outside. So we gotta teach them how to work indoor, like maybe baking, maybe doing something, crushing. So they're not gonna be exposing on the sun because the sun is killing them.
Okay.
So me, I'm registered to United States. I'm registered in the federal government. I'm here to see what's going on here.
Okay.
But my business is a charitable business.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to pull over for 1 second. One nice thing about the Entrepreneur Business Center is that we're not an SBDC. And you think, what the hell's the difference? Well, the difference is that the Small Business Administration handles the SBDCs around the country, Small Business Development Centers, which are fantastic. And you'll see those at many community colleges. And JJC used to be one of those. The administration here made the decision to move away from that for a variety of reasons. One of them was that we could not work with the SBDC. We could not work with not-for-profits. We could not work with students. And many times students want to start a small business, especially these days, and not-for-profits are another place that we couldn't work with people like that before. Under the current grant we have from the government that we formed under a little over a year ago, we can work for not-for-profits. We can work with students, and we are. We're helping students start small businesses. We're working with other not-for-profits, and we're actually been working aggressively in the last few months, helping people form not-for-profits because it's hard to do. I mean, you've been through it.
I've been registered in the state of Illinois. We registered in the federal government with SAM.gov. We registered in grant.gov. We are profiled in grant.gov. Right now, we are trying to manage how to talk, like what you just say, how to talk to people about your business. The first thing is how to explain what you're doing.
Yeah, that's hard.
And how to put a business plan and all this.
Right, exactly, yeah. And actually, you're probably, maybe I have him teach how to get not-for-profit, because it's not easy to do. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of work. So we're learning ourselves, but that's the nice thing about this. Many times when somebody comes to us with a problem, we don't know all the answers. I mean, who knows all the answers? We tell our kids we do, but in business, that isn't always the answer. So we go to find them together. If we don't know, or Brian doesn't know, or Fatina doesn't know, or someone else in the organization doesn't know, we reach out. I had a client that came to me and wanted to start a chicken farm, doing eggs and raising chickens. I live in the country, but I don't know anything about chickens other than they're delicious. So I reached out to we have people, we have an agricultural wing here, no pun intended. And I reached out to them that although they work in agriculture, they weren't familiar with poultry. So then I reached out, they referred me to the University of Illinois Extension. And so I reached out to them, and surprisingly, they have a poultry expert. And she knew everything about eggs, chicken, and that kind of farming. So I matched up our client with this person at the University of Illinois Extension, and they gave them all the information they needed. So we helped with the starting the business part, and they helped with actually the how to write an egg farm part. So that's what's great about this. It's really a collaboration, And we're happy you're here. Thank you. You know, I'm gonna give you this though, because you gotta write your name down. Okay, we'll start with Diane here.
Hi, my name is Diana. I am married. I have 2 kids, 8 grandkids. And I'm retiree. I have a bachelor's degree from Northeastern Illinois University in business management, graduated in 1990. And my granddaughter just graduated from Romeoville High School. And she's going to be a nail technician.
Okay.
She's 17. Hello. And so at that point, when you're talking to me, my granddaughter and decided to come here because I know I'm going to have to be the one that opened up the small business called Nail Shop, whoever, you know, Sky's her name. So we probably say Sky Nail. Y'all remember that. and that's why I'm here to try to learn how to proceed in that business aspect. That's why.
Come to the right place. You and Sky, well, we'll get you started together.
And I must add, my grandson, he's gonna be a senior, and he's going for barber shop.
Oh, perfect.
So I want to put them both together in my so-called shop.
Mhm.
And from my understanding, I don't have to be licensed. Do you know that to be the truth or not? That's why.
Are you gonna do nails or hair?
Well, the thing is not, no, it's just gonna be nail shop and a barber. No, I'm not cutting nobody's hair. No. The barbershop part, leave to my grandson.
Right.
Granddaughter, I said I probably could learn nails because I'm gonna go to this place in Lamont on nail shop
Mhm.
and learn it. So because she went to Wellcoat, something like that. Y'all might be familiar with that.
Yep.
And they get their license, whatever they need to do. But I'm gonna have to go to school. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, to actually run the business, no. To do the nails, you probably would need to be a license.
So that
But
would be-
just to start one, no, you can be the managing director of Sky Nails and Barbershop and you can just tell them what to do. That'd be better for a grandma, really.
If I want to continue
Right.
doing just that, but the problem with that though, they don't listen. That's the whole thing. The grandkids, they don't listen. They smart. They computer whiz and
We'll
they
tell
tell me how to do stuff.
them what to do and then you can pretend like, well, see, they said to do it. It wasn't me.
That's a good one.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
Put it on us. You know, blame somebody. That's what I like.
Okay, Johnny at school told me to do it this way.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Go ahead.
I'm Tequila. I currently I am finishing my tenure with the government, a government job or whatever, and I started a tea business in October, and I suspended it because my job too busy, and I thought, okay, eventually I'll be able to get it going. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. So I'm walking away from my job to pursue my passion in loose leaf tea. It's e-commerce. So I'm here to basically get the structure going and understanding the processes. Like she said, running an e-commerce business, eventually possibly moving to like pop-up tea parties, things like that. Hopefully brick and mortar. I don't know with the tea room, but that's down the line.
Mhm.
But right now, that's what I'm pursuing.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Tricia?
I'm Patricia Barber. I am a former public school teacher. I left the classroom 22 years ago because I had a baby and I'd always intended to go back. Well, that baby grew and I could not leave him. So I've been home. I homeschooled him. He's now a junior in college. I don't homeschool college, but stop at high school. And I just graduated my daughter on the 24th and she'll be heading to ASU in the fall. And now it's mom's time. So I have a passion for all things etiquette and manners, including tea parties. So I live in Romeoville, so I'll be looking forward to the nail salon. I just finished training with the American School of Protocol in Atlanta, Georgia for all things etiquette and manners. And my goal is to start an etiquette school for children.
Oh, gosh.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's neat. Well, we could all use it. Am I right? Right?
I'm Margie. I've been a licensed cosmetologist for a long time. So I mean, I've dabbled in having my own business, thank you, for a while now, but I came because I wanted to venture out into starting a podcast possibly, and then just wanting to get more information on how to navigate both my cosmetologist like shop, but more like individually, and then also with the podcast.
Hi, I'm Miss Lena. I have been in the restaurant industry for a long time, about 15 years. It is my passion and it's coast. I like to entertain, feed people. So that is why I'm here. I'm looking to open a restaurant of my own. Right now, I'm a social work, but my true passion is foods. That's my.
My name is Cindy. I'm mining from Texas. My husband and I were going to open a business in Texas before coming, but personal circumstances moved us here to Illinois. We were going to open up a mechanic shop. He's a mechanic. But right now, I'm undecided of doing my own passion. I did go to culinary school, so restaurant as well, or mechanic, or somehow both. I'm not sure yet. So, and I wanted to see how it works here in Illinois because I have no clues about the law here in Illinois.
That's not like a loss here. No, I'm not worried about that. Now we can help with that too.
Sorry, I'm very lots of 15 minutes late, so
That's okay. I'm gonna make you do a name tag.
it's okay. I am 30, well, about to be 30, and I also have 3 small children under 3. Going through it, but I'm also here to learn about. I want to start like a charcuterie business and with that. Just want to like learn the ins and outs of that in Illinois because I've been running across different things, and I'm also in school for healthcare management because I want to start down the road. I also want to start like a in-home care service for seniors.
Thank you all. I will try to keep everything in my head, but I will also ask for refreshers from time to time. And this really, you guys are a cross section of what we've seen here in my last year. And we've got literally, I think it's over 100 new clients in the last year. And they really cut across all of these categories in one way or another, and everyone taking a little different approach. So they're all great ideas. They're all ideas we can help with. And we're helping with, all of these ideas every day. And really the important thing is to kind of take this measured approach, coming and learning. Sometimes we have people, and I was one of them, you kind of do this ready, fire, aim approach where it's like, I'm starting a business and off you go. And then you probably get yourself in more trouble than if you kind of took some baby steps at least. Because some people decide, well, I'm going to start a brick and mortar business. And then they find out they need all kinds of money to start it. And they're like, well, that's a terrible, I don't want. Now I need money. Well, let's start at the beginning and then we can work through this process. And so you can get the business started the right way and you can be confident going forward. So hopefully this process will help you with that too. All right. Now on as we go through this, we get a few quotes along the way, but there's been a lot of them that have kind of hit home with me. This is one of them from Steve Jobs of Apple fame. And his is, I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. Because if you're an entrepreneur, for instance, you decided, I don't like my day job. I don't want to work for the man anymore. I want to go work for myself because I'm sick of all these hours and all this pressure. Well, I got news for you. Starting your own business is a whole nother can of worms. You lay awake at night wondering if you're going to have enough money to pay the taxes and the bills. And then I remember when I started mine, I had a small child, I had a mortgage. I quit a good job with an engineering firm to start a company. And then I immediately thought, what the hell did I just do? Because I didn't have any money. We were relying on clients from our previous job to come with us to the new company, but that was just a wish. I mean, we had 0 customers, not one. So that then it becomes perseverance. Then it becomes hard work. Then it becomes 16-hour days. Then it becomes, worrying and learning new things, learning how to sell, learning how to be an accountant, learning how to be a marketer. So you're all of these things rolled into one. So leaving a job just because you don't like it anymore, I'm going to go do my own thing, is not a panacea. Now, I can also tell you, having worked I've actually had two careers, one working for a big company and one working for myself. And the grass is beautifully green on both sides. You work for a company and your check comes every 2 weeks. You usually have to do something awful to get fired. Yes, you have to deal with a lot of administrative, baloney, institutional stuff that, a bad boss every now and then. And then you think, well, if I worked for myself, I wouldn't have any of that trouble. I worked from home for 21 years. Driving here every 3 days a week is like a commute for me now. And I used to work up by Wrigley Field. So then I started work for myself, and it was wonderful. And it was wonderful. But then there was times I'm like, I wish I could just go into work today and just, sit at my desk and do a few things and go home, and a check could come in 2 weeks. So they all have their challenges and they all have the beauty. But I can tell you this one right here, perseverance is going to be one that you're going to be faced with as an entrepreneur. No two ways about it. Now, let's talk a little bit about the idea. Now, I can tell you for 15 years in my human relations class, I've been teaching about doing something you're passionate about. I won't kid you, when I first started teaching that, I only taught it under duress because I grew up in another time. I'm not a young man, as you can see. I grew up in a time when it's like, you got a job where you could make money. Passion, smashing. It was like, you got to get a job where you can make a good living. And honestly, that's what I did. I got a job. I went and got a job as an engineer, not because I liked engineering. I didn't like math and science, but it was a good job in 1977. So that's why I became an engineer. So, and I taught about passion because in my human relations book, which is wonderful, it's a wonderful class. They talk about if you do something you're passionate about, the money will just show up. And I was like, I'm not sure I can buy that one either. It just depends. It's not just passion. To me, it's effort. And I ran across something I think is a wonderful way to talk about this. I have to do these simultaneously, so this isn't going to be easy. Whoops, see, I screwed it up already. I'll do one and then the other. Now the question is how can I? Nobody said this was easy. I have to mute this one. Okay, it is muted. Okay, and we'll open this one.
Is a lot in this.
Hold on.
And I realized I had a semi passed on. I used to be passed.
Let's pause this thing. All right, the volume button on this thing. Turn this down a little. Just try to. Maybe that'll help. Maybe.
In this.
Hold on. I apologize. Where was the? Be this hard. It'll be a lot easier if we can actually hear this.
Lies of life. It is follow your passion, follow your passion. I wanted to be a baseball player. Then I realized I had a 70-mile-per-hour fastball. Be passionate, I'm a professional basketball player. Then I realized I had a 7-inch vertical. There's a lot of things I'm passionate about, a lot. But you know what? The thing I'm being really good at were the things I found myself putting an effort into. About passion, but that's really not what it's on. You really need to evaluate and say, okay, where am I putting in my time? Because when you look at where you put in your time, when you put in your effort, that tends to be the things that you're good. And if you put in enough time, you tend to get really good at it. And if you put in enough time and you get, I'll give you a little secret, nobody quits anything they're good. You can be good. It's fun to be one of the best. But in order to be one of the best, you have to put in effort. So don't follow your passions. We get secret. But life that you can control is your effort.
Well, despite the awful audio, I hope you could see that now. And I'm not.
Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life.
Oh.
That's it. No big deal.
You're going to get to hear that in. So I'm certainly not discounting the notion of passion, but passion and effort have to go together. Now, I felt the same way. I was passionate about baseball. I wanted to be a professional baseball player, but same thing. My fastball clocked out at 78 miles an hour, so that ain't gonna work. And even though I was a good baseball player in high school, I wasn't good enough to even get a sniff from a college, much less professional baseball. So then what am I gonna do? Well, I'll end up being an engineer. So, but the thing is, if you are passionate about something and it's something to put effort into, that's when you end up making this a business. Don't just do something you're passionate about if it isn't something you don't want to put the effort into, because they cannot go hand in hand. If you're passionate, put in the effort. So that's why I have them both here, because when I read that by Mark Cuban, I'm like, some people are passionate about something that they may be passionate about it, but they really want to work hard at it. It's just something they really love, and they sort of wish something would happen. You got to put in the hours. It's no different than Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours to become expert at something. You have to put in the time and the effort to be good at things. So that's one way to do this. Now, another way to start a business is this one: identify your opportunities or problems that need to be solved. It's something where you see something that society needs. Now, when I started my business, I was back, and you guys, most of you are too young to even remember this, but there's a time when in the electric industry, ComEd was the only choice. ComEd, they made the power, they distributed the power, and they delivered it to your house. I worked at ComEd then. It was also a time in the world when people they wanted choices. They wanted to buy power from somebody other than the local electric company, in this case, ComEd. So laws were written and passed, and now you're going to have a choice to do this. Now, I happened to be working at ComEd when the laws were written and passed, and I was part of that whole development. And just by dumb luck, I knew a lot about that industry. And so when came time for large businesses to shop for power, only a handful of people knew what to do, and I was one of them. So I was recruited away from ComEd to this engineering firm to help their customers shop for power. So at that time, I had a problem that needed to be solved that didn't exist before. My job didn't exist ever. And now I knew how to do it, and not a lot of people did. So off I went. I had a problem that needed to be solved that I happened to have unique information on. Was it my passion? No, it was not. But it was a unique problem. I knew how to do it, so I could get passionate about making a living out of that. So I did. So that's one way to do it. Now, one way to approach this, and you guys are probably, some of you in different stages of this, some well along, some just starting, the notion of market research. Who's going to be my client? Now, again, when I started my business, I knew it in my head already. I'd been studying this for years at ComEd. I knew who all the clients were. I knew the big ones. I knew the medium-sized ones. I knew the little ones. I knew where the most money could be made. It was just because I was just bathed in it for a long, long time. Just like you and your baking for all these years. You know how to bake. That's not the problem. You know who your clients are going to be. Anybody that likes sweets. Everybody, pretty much. Even gluten-free people like my wife. She loves sweets more than anything. And so finding your client. And then is there a need for my product or service? A need. Now, it's one thing to say, I love this. Okay, does anybody else love it? Anybody else need it? Or are you just going to create this new thing? Remember, this thing here, the iPhone, nobody knew they needed this. Steve Jobs decided we needed it. And now everyone has this one or something like it with them right now. So he created a market. That's a whole nother way of going about business. So there's different ways to approach the idea, but we all get there in our own way. Excuse me. Now, what kind of business model are you going to use? Well, that's no fun. I don't want a business model. I just want to get cracking on this thing. Now, the business model, the pure definition is it's a design for the successful operation of a business, identifying revenue sources, the customer base, products, and details of financing. And that doesn't sound like any fun at all. I just want to open a business and make a bunch of money, and we'll all be rolling around in cash like Scrooge McDuck. But you actually have to have a plan, and part of that is this business model plan. So there is importance to having a solid business model. Now, you might already have one, you just don't know it yet because you know this already. You've kind of been living in it, and it's like you already have a business model. But now let's try to put that into words. Let's define what that really is. So in the case of, there's a bunch of different business models. I've tried to capture a lot of them here. Sorry, I'm clicking the wrong screens. Here's a few we're going to talk about. One is a subscription model, a direct sales model, an e-commerce model. We're just talking about that one. Who's e-commerce back there? Yep, right here. Franchise model and a retail model, which is, I kind of added that one because that's the one I feel like most of us are going to end up in. So the subscription model is one that we'd all love to get a piece of. And this is one, as a subscription model is a business model in which a customer are charged a recurring fee for access to a product instead of a one-time expense. Now, if you think about it, computer software changed their model completely. There was a time when you could just go buy software. You get it in a box, about 20 CDs to load, or floppy disk if you're old as me, to load on your computer. And they said, okay, we can get this $300 one time, or we can bleed these people for the rest of their lives on a subscription model and charge them $19 a month for the rest of their lives. So a subscription model is a very good model if you can get someone to buy into your subscription model. Like, I don't know, Netflix, Apple Plus, Apple Music. So it's a great model. This recurring fee is often paid monthly or yearly, and the customer is often given the choice as to the frequency of the purchase. Anybody here an Amazon customer? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got more subscriptions than I know what to do with. And sometimes we forget about them. Now there's actually subscription services that keep track of your subscriptions for you. So a subscription model is not a bad one. So if you're thinking about a model, this isn't bad. I actually changed my business model over time because our industry changed. Mine used to be a one-time fee because I was an engineer. So engineers charge basically a price to do a job. So I was charging a price to do my job when I first started doing this. Well, then the industry said, you know what? We could probably just do this over time, like a subscription model. So our industry changed into one that's more like insurance. Do you remember how much you pay your insurance man for insurance? You don't, because it's buried in your insurance policy. The insurance people get paid, they get paid as a broker on the back end of that policy. So if you spend $1,000 on insurance, the insurance person might get $100. It's buried in there as a broker fee. They don't tell you what the broker fee is, but it's there. And so our industry went to a broker model where our work would be done, but our fee would be paid buried in in your electric bill. Not your electric bill, but the person that hired us. So that changed. And so we didn't change right away, we changed later. But these things evolve over time. So even when you start your business today, it won't be the same as later necessarily. My business has changed. There was 3 people when I started doing this business that knew how to do it. I take that back. That did it. Now there's over 500. 3 people knew how to do it then. There's about 3 people who know how to do it now, but 500 are still doing it. But it's a different model and it's a different way of life. So everything changes over time. Think about video stores. How many video stores you go to these days? Nope. Yeah, there's a handful left on the planet, I think. So things change. You got to be ready to change with it. So these models change over time too. A direct sales model is one. It's the sales of products or services that generate revenue through a network of salespeople. They sell directly to the customer typically. And typically there's no fixed retail location and it's under direct sales business model. So that's where somebody just sells direct to the customer. There's no brick and mortar. They just go out and sell directly to you. I guess you could look at it, probably the phone calls you get for car warranties, that kind of thing. That's more of a direct sales model. Now, I don't know that a lot of you are going to be going down that path, but it's one that you should just need to be aware of because it is one you might be able to use as you go through this. E-commerce is not unlike that, but it's obviously it's e-commerce, not direct sales, but it's direct sales through the internet. But it's another way we do this. If you think about, I guess the classic salesperson, that's sort of a direct sales model. And e-commerce, electronic commerce is really what it's for, or e-commerce. It's a business model that's businesses and consumers buy or sell online, which we do that all the time now. I mean, look at our world. Shopping, when I was a little kid, and I mean a little kid on a bike, on Jefferson Street, where Menards and Walmart is now, there used to be a mall there. I went there on my bike the day they broke ground for the mall. And that mall it grew up. I played pinball in that mall. I met my wife in that mall, and now that mall was destroyed, and there's Menards and a Walmart there. And now malls are basically going away because of e-commerce, because of, I'm not going to blame Amazon alone, but e-commerce is changing our world. And so everybody buys everything online. I know people who won't do anything but buy online. They don't leave, I'm not saying they don't leave their house, but they don't buy anything at a store anymore. They buy everything online. So e-commerce is definitely, I wouldn't say the wave of the future. It's already here. I don't know what the next wave is going to be, but that's certainly a great business model. Because again, no brick and mortar. And many times we have a student, speaking of student businesses, we have a student, one of our clients, he has a big following on TikTok somehow. And so now he started selling things on TikTok, clothing, primarily clothing, but he'll pick out a shirt. I love this shirt. This is a great shirt. You know, if you guys should wear this. It feels great. It washes great. If you want one, just click down here. And he does that. He's making $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, selling stuff he never even touches. It's a drop ship program. They click on that. It goes from Alibaba or Amazon or wherever he's got this relationship with, and they pay him a piece of every shirt that gets sold through this e-commerce model. So there's a million ways to make money. It sounds easy, doesn't it? It's a lot harder than that. A lot harder than that. So that's the e-commerce model. And the franchise model, this is one that kind of we think of McDonald's. It's a business whereby the owner licenses its operations along with products, branding, and knowledge in exchange for a franchise fee. So you're basically buying a business in a box. You're already buying a business that works. You're buying a McDonald's. You're buying a Jimmy John's. You're buying a Subway. And so you have to follow all their rules. The contracts are very long. You get a lawyer involved. You have to buy all their napkins, all their cups, all their straws. Guess how they're making money now? You think they're making money selling sandwiches? No, not the guy who started this thing. He's making on all that. He's at a subscription model now. You know, he's got his franchise because money's coming in every single month from everybody who takes a franchise. But then again, I don't have to start a sandwich shop. I already know that this sandwich shop was successful. If you drop a Subway somewhere, it's probably going to make money. Drop a Jimmy John's somewhere, probably going to make money. Domino's, probably going to make money. So you're buying basically a model that you know is going to work. Theoretically, you can even look up how much money you're going to make if you make this investment, but then you have to have the money to invest in it. McDonald's are wildly expensive. It gets to the point now where if you were going to buy a McDonald's and you had all the money to buy one, do you really need to buy a McDonald's? But you know, that's a different class. That's a franchise model. And then the retail model is probably the one we would be most familiar with. A retail business model follows a direct consumer to consumer approach, also called B2C. What I sell is B2B, business to business, where the company sells directly to final customers a processed or finished product. So you make something, you sell it to a consumer. This implies a business model that is mostly locally based. Now, I say that only because we're working with a lot of local clients, but the retail business usually like it's in a downtown area, it's in a mall, it's in some shopping area where it's local people coming to your space to buy something. Now, that's not always the way now. You can have a local space and be selling a bunch of stuff online all over the world too. So you can have e-commerce within a retail model. So they blend, they cross over. It isn't, you know, you don't have to have one or the other necessarily, but it's kind of the general thoughts. And if you think about all of the things we're talking about here, there's something that's retail. In the bakery business, you're basically a retail model. Not for profit is different, obviously. But you know, barbershop and nails, you know, even etiquette, you're still going business to consumer, but it's not retail. It's more of a direct sales approach. And you're going to have people come to a class, you know, which becomes a little retail-y. So yeah, they kind of blend over time, but these are kind of the general models. I gotta admit, I didn't think about these models ever when I started my business. I just knew that I was going to, you know, help people buy power. And I didn't really think about the model, but when you're doing this, it's kind of good to think about it because, okay, what's going to be the best approach for me? Do I need a brick and mortar location? That is very expensive, very expensive. And as I learned over the last year, if you decide to get a brick and mortar location, you're in for 2 or 3 or more years, and it's personal credit, and you're guaranteeing that rent for the whole time. And think rent probably $1,500 to $3,000 a month for a little space somewhere that you're going to guarantee on your personal credit for the next 3 years, whether you survive or not. And then you're going to build it out. And then you need first and last month's rent. And now you need insurance for that retail space. And now you need fixtures for that retail space. So, you know, yes, it's an investment, but it's also your space now. So, but it's every one of these are valid approaches, and every one of these are ones you need to think through as you're deciding what to do with your business. And the good news is you're here thinking about it, and some of you have started, but these are all things you can consider as you move forward. One of the things now, I think who was talking about opening a brick and mortar space at some point? You weren't you, Tequila? Yeah. Yeah. So is that something you're kind of sort of out in the future? Way out in the future. Anybody else? Yeah, and Josie, you were thinking about a brick and mortar space because especially because you need you need space. Yeah. Now and then you can look at, okay, maybe I take over an existing one. Maybe somebody wants to sell their bakery. Maybe I can buy something, I can move into a space that already has a location, already has a reputation. So now you're looking at different ways of approaching these things. So, they're all different approaches and they're all equally valid. It's just what's right for you, and you have to be prepared for it.
Is that kind of like, is that the same as far as like the brick and mortar, like I'm starting it up and then just like the insurance and the liability and all that? Is that kind of like the same?
No. And I'm glad you brought that up because we've had clients come in that want to start restaurants and they're talking this through. We had a young man who came in, he wanted to start a barbecue restaurant. So so he needed brick and mortar space. He needed a kitchen. And kitchens cost to build out a kitchen from scratch for a restaurant, like 6 figures. That's just for the kitchen. That's not all the fixtures that go in there. So he's looking at this again, 2 to 3 year commitment on the lease. And now you're in there for 6 months and things are going okay, but not that great. Now what do I do? So ultimately, guess what he decided to do? Food truck. Food truck. Yes. Is it expensive? It wasn't that expensive. I want to say $50,000, I think, for his, because he got like a trailer, like a big smoker, and he's already doing catering out of his house, not unlike you. And so now he's got a food truck. And so a lot less investment. Yes, there's still a lot of insurance is another huge thing. We'll talk about insurance. You got to have insurance in all these things because somebody's going to sue you. I have so much. I don't even leave my house if I got a bunch of insurance. But so insurance is important, but a lot less exposure. Now you can go where the people are. Now you can go to fairs. Now you can go to craft fairs. Now you can go to state fairs. Now you can go where the people are already, or you can work on the weekend or not. You don't have to be open. Think about it. If you open a restaurant, you got to staff it every single day, probably 6 days a week. And now you got to find people that work there. And I know we were just complaining about our kids, but you know what? Kids don't get their first job is in McDonald's anymore. They're not all working at McDonald's. I used to go to McDonald's when I was hanging out, when I was in high school. Half my friends were working behind the counter, the other half were on the other side. And then we'd switch. So that's a lot less risky way to go about it. And those are all good things you can think about. Okay, which of these business models would work for me? And maybe I start with a food truck and I move on to a brick and mortar. Because that's another way to approach it is, again, evaluating it over what's basically the risk continuum here. What am I putting at risk financially and even personally to go into this thing? So that's a good, very good point. I'm glad you brought that up because that has happened in our consulting with clients, which is fun. Excuse me. So now you got to think about your strengths, your weaknesses, and your resources. What am I bringing to the table here? So what are your strengths and your weaknesses and your resources? What are you bringing to the table? So what even in here, what are some of the strengths you guys have when you think about your business? Go ahead.
I can't because it's just too overwhelming for me.
Okay,
So
that's very helpful. Go ahead.
How to sell, marketing the business, like how to do presentation, how to present your business so people they can understand the real thing you good, and how you can get working in the business and making money in the business, helping people, benefiting your business, and how that's the strength I have. When I leave everything, how I can help and how I can make money also at the same time.
Okay. Yep. That's our Diana.
Managerial skills, administration, organizational skills, the paperwork, that's me.
That's huge. That's huge. In my business, that's what I've always done. I'm that in sales. My business partner builds all these. We have economic models we create to help our customers in this buying energy. He's the model guy and I'm everything else. I do all the administrative stuff. I do the sales. He does all the sort of backroom stuff. And everybody kind of brings different strengths to the business. You guys have Max, now, in your case, like your kids, they're gonna do,
The grandkids.
the grandkids are gonna do the work, if you will, but you're gonna take care of all the stuff that's really important. It's great to have a skill, but if you can't manage the money and you forget to get insurance and you forget to pay the light bill, or you know what? Oh, the rent was due. You know, yeah, it's amazing how it's not that easy. You know, even I know that I have a big stack of envelopes. I know that they're automatically paid. You know, but I got to go through some stuff. You know, I'll be honest with you. So, and even in my business, you know, thank God that we have a lot of everything automatically paid too. But somebody's got to manage all that stuff. And so you become it isn't just your skill of baking or doing nails or hair or, in your case, in teaching children etiquette, it's running the business that you got to think about. So that's a strength that somebody got to have. And what about weaknesses? Any weaknesses out there? No, probably not. One of them might be, I don't know anything about marketing or sales. Right. I mean, people come in. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I can basically flap my gums. That's what I'm good at. I can get people to buy into me as a person. So if they like me, I convince them to buy my services. And if I do a good job, most of my clients who have had for 20 years, because they liked us to begin with, we did a good job, and we haven't done anything to tee them off yet. We haven't run them off. Right now, my biggest problem now is my clients that are either retiring or actually, I had somebody die, which I thought was very, very, very rude of him. But he was a great guy, and I was very sad to see him go. But that's just it. But now here's my problem. Okay, this is Dr. Heal Thyself. I didn't make enough connections beyond that guy. I didn't make enough connections deep enough in that organization, because when he passed away, they looked at me like, "Who the hell are you?" Look, I've been working with David. He loves me. Well, he's not here anymore. Ugh. So now I got to work to rebuild a relationship. So there's a lot of nuances to this stuff. So that's one of my weaknesses. I didn't do enough deep diving, didn't get enough connections there. So everybody's got a weakness. That one of the things we'll do in the business plan is something called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, sometimes we don't recognize a threat until it's up on us, but that's why we want to try to think about it going forward. Now, weakness is something to think about. One of the things we struggle with most here or with our clients is the notion of marketing. Web presence, social media presence. It's hard, and honestly, you have to put money toward that too. What? Money toward marketing? Yes, you have to put money toward marketing. Of all the other things you got to blow money on, you actually have to worry about marketing yourselves, because you have a beautiful shop and it just opened, and you're just assuming they're going to walk in the door, and then they don't. That's the hard part.
That's my main issue right now. I'm struggling for the web page. It's very expensive.
So, and that's, everybody goes through the same thing. Even the young woman, I guess I should say young. She's younger than me. The sewing cafe lady, beautiful place. It was gorgeous, and for the first several months, it was basically open and nobody was coming in. She actually started going out downtown around every business, putting out her business cards, promoting herself. And she got a little traction going. I actually got her connected with our community and continuing education group. You ever get the little, you should all have gotten one in the mail. It's a little catalog with all of our little community and continuing education classes. So you're going to be in that in the fall, doing sewing classes. I took one on how to handle a knife here to cut stuff. 64 years old, I didn't know how to cut a tomato properly. I do now, so I took the class, but that's a great thing. So you never know what resources are going to be available. And actually then, all of you become resources for each other through classes like this. Then you can help each other. You can talk to one another. So these are all things that we got to work toward. Another one is, how do your strengths and resources align with your business model? Okay, what are you good at? Well, you're going to have an e-commerce model, right? Do you know about building an e-commerce website? There you go. Okay, so and also then understanding how that works, understanding how making money in e-commerce. Obviously, you're probably going to do more on the web and in social media than.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's where we all need help and things like that. That's where we have to reach out to other people who do this for a living. And that is the most squishy, undefined thing in the world, is how to make money using social media to drive business to your company. It's one thing to get a lot of people looking at your funny video with you slipping and falling and end up with flour all over your head. but will they buy the cakes? You know, getting views, getting likes, getting followers is important, but then you need me to give me money so I can eat. So that's not, there's no causal relationship between eyeballs seeing your stuff and people buying your stuff. So that's the hard part. That's the hard part. But that's something that we can help with. But if I had a magic wand, I'd probably be on an island somewhere, instead of teaching here. And I want you to do about the weaknesses. What do you do about your weaknesses? That's one of them. Yeah. Coming here is one of them. And then you got to figure out, what am I not good at? And maybe I need to go take a class, right? Come here. How do I start a business? I don't know. I didn't know either. I once saw a lawyer. That was they were nice lawyers, but there's a very expensive way to learn. Very expensive way to learn. But we didn't exist then. The Small Business Administration did. I went to see them. I told them we needed money to start a business. And they said, really? And I said, yeah. I'd like to get a small business loan. They said, well, have you asked your family for money? And I'm like, no. Have you maxed out your credit cards? I'm like, no. Did you take a loan out against your house yet? I'm like, no. I said, well, when you do all that, come back and see us. It's 21 years ago. And so I did. I took a loan out against my house, didn't have any customers, and told my wife I was quitting my job to start a business. She was supportive. Yeah, I don't know what she was thinking. It all worked out. So let's see, look at, you're probably going through it right now. Yeah. Just take a shot. That's it though. Instead of just taking a shot, think about it first. Let's plan it first. You know, that's a much better way to go about it. So what's next on our agenda? So what's your pitch? What do you tell your friends and family when you say, I want to start a business? They go, well, what's it going to be? So that's what we got to think about. It's something called an elevator pitch. Have you seen this on Shark Tank or on TV? Or basically, if you can, in an elevator, you can explain to someone as you're going, like here, get in the elevator here. You're going on 1 up to 4 here for your class. Can you tell that person in that elevator ride what your idea is or what your business is, and have them go, wow, that's really interesting. And I can't. I've tried. Most of the time people go, what do you do? And my son for a long time said, Dad, what do I tell my, because I worked from home 21 years ago. Nobody worked from home 21 years ago. And so I was at home. I generally didn't shave every day. I wore a hat, baseball hat, like in, shorts, hanging around the house, going outside. And people thought I was basically a vagrant. And my son said, Dad, what do I tell my friends you do? And I tried to explain what an energy consultant does and how I put, and he just looked at me with this dead-eyed stare. And I said, just tell him I'm an assassin. It's a lot more interesting, and they'll just think it's cool, and they won't really understand what I do really, but they'll see me kind of coming and going, and sometimes I'm dressed up and sometimes I'm not, so it made more sense. But in this case, in the elevator pitch, you need to boil down, what is it I want? What is this business? And how can I tell somebody quickly and accurately that I do? What's my why, as we're going to talk about in a minute. 30 seconds, introducing yourself, getting across a key point or two, and then making a connection with someone. And now at this point, I say, listen, I help people buy energy and save money. And they go, what? And think of it this way. Somebody said that they could shop for your cable bill and knock 20% off your cable bill, and you only have to pay them 1% of that. Would you have them do it? Yeah, well, that's what I do. I help people get cheaper power, and they pay me a little fraction of it. So that they're like, okay, I kind of understand it now, but why do I want you? Well, that's a whole other problem. But trying to do that is something you should do. Now we have an hour left. We can take a little time to do this now, or we can do it the next time. Let me just I got to take a quick through it. Let me see how many. I got to do that. Okay, we got a little ways to go, but yeah, can you guys get maybe back in, because it looks like everybody, or maybe you're even in 3, and maybe tell each other quickly what's your business. Sure, you're even in the rows. You can kind of tell each other how do you explain to people what you do? Yeah, go ahead.
Fighting for the skin cancer for the people with albinos. The guy with skin cancer, we are giving them cancer leave long or they also die in this country. That's the education.
Find, certain products, and whatever for events. So like I'm connected.
Open up events for they young kids, and it's still high school.
Yeah.
So instead of
Yeah, it's too much extra.
shop that has it all for you,
Yeah, that's it.
she makes it for you. Like,
You guys order it, and it's for his headquarters, you both sign. So you still buy everything. You have your website. You want to market your business online, so people say, you know, you gotta contact the baking design. Lockport, baking design. They do the thing. I was in the party, they do the stuff. We decorate it, we bring the food, we set up everything, we do. You set up, you make it custom traditional, or you can, wanna make it the. Like they do it in the store, the glass, or you want to make it.
Yeah, taking up, I mean, think about it.
Very interesting, I think, very.
$1,000. Parents in the elderly. Okay, so you're gonna present.
Mine is overseas, I did before.
You make sure that.
Albinos, like me, they have, they don't have.
There you go.
They have different, when I came, I asked myself on the front, I can see more
Oh,
of
there you go. So you're gonna present shop and they're
In the
gonna.
United States, they don't have problems, but in Africa, they suffer, they die in this cancer because the sun is hot. So my organization, this contracting business, let me say, how to explain people, they can give me something, how to explain people my business. They give me art. Now, how I explain them, so they can have the education. I can make money too, I can get paid for what I'm doing.
It's just, you know, make somebody's hands. But they will have to enforce them, they will have to personally insured as well. But they have to protect you right now.
I'm just explaining the state of Illinois. I have my business plan, I have iris, and I number. I have started, I just need to work like what you said, how to see the people's partner, so they can find out. Explain them so they can get a grant, you can get a grant.
Yes, that's what I'm.
How for the grant, for the grant, they cost. Some people want it, so how we can make our no for them, so we can get the grant, when they see it. And I that's why I'm here. You guys can help, but right now let's sing this. Hello. Right now, it was when I was coming.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And also the spread. And then that was big buses, tea parties. Like we're in the zone, things like that, so.
So everything would be, you would set up.
I hope the audio is better on this video. It's a gentleman now, you'll be able to tell from the video that it isn't exactly done last week. But he talks about the notion of the why of a business, because I won't steal his thunder, but it's an interesting video because one of the things we need to figure out in our business is why are we running the business? And he'll talk about the obvious reasons in a minute. But getting kind of to that, the underbelly of why we're doing a business is really the important part. I hope the audio is better because I don't know what was going on, but this is the hard part. Simultaneous clicking is even harder.
Biden on the way.
Pardon me?
The Biden is not. I think Biden is not.
could adjust it on the computer.
I tried to do that too.
Not on the actual video, bottom corner.
No.
Got it.
Got it.
How do you
That's better.
explain
Thank
when
you.
things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight? The Wright brothers beat them to it. There's something else at play here. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, when you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean, what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. And that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we're better. And we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TV. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, this, if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the .com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, when you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight.
And that is a great, I had never heard of that example before either. And that's one of the things that I thought was awesome about that video is that story about the Wright brothers. Because if you think about your own business and the people you want to work there, you want somebody that's, you know, I hate to put it this way, but some high school kid to just come in because they're going to make $15 an hour. You want somebody to come in because they want to work for you and they want to work in your business. They believe in your business or they believe in you and they want to come and work for you because they think that you're a good person or you think that you can teach them something. That's what you want. Somebody can come work in your business, going to come buy from you because it's like we were just talking about. We were talking about restaurants. There's in Morrison and Joliet, there's a million Mexican restaurants. But which ones have the best food? Which ones have the best service? Which ones have the best employees? I went to a restaurant in I live west of here. I live in Morris. Well, west of me is the rest of the country, basically. But there's west of me is some fantastic restaurants. There's a city called Spring Valley west of me. Actually, there's another city called Ladd. We'll talk about that sometime. But in Spring Valley is an Italian restaurant called Verrucchi's. They came over. It's an Italian family that came from Italy, and they settled in Spring Valley, Illinois, for God knows what reason. And this restaurant is in the middle of a neighborhood, and I would have never ended up there except I knew somebody from that area, and they took me there. The food is incredible, and the waitress we had was delightful. I would go back just to have her wait on us again, because she was passionate about that place. She told us all about the menu, what she liked best, what she didn't like best, suggested things, and had a great personality. And the fact that she sounded like a Saturday Night Live character didn't hurt me either. But I would go back there just because of the atmosphere and that person. And the food was really good too. But you got it, that why that he talks about is really what you're shooting for here. It's the why. There's a million restaurants, there's a million nail shops, there's a million barber shops. But you want to go to the person who, I can tell my wife has been to probably, let's see, we're married for 39 years. She's probably been to 80 salons. I don't think. She's always searching for that right one. She found the right one and he died. And since then, she's been bouncing around like a ping pong ball in a lottery, pin. but she's looking for that right person, for that right, she's a very difficult person to get to the why, but she's looking for it. And if you're the why for the people in your business or in your region, if you think about how regional retail businesses are, especially your small businesses, they want your stuff. They don't want somebody else's stuff. Are people going to Amazon because they like Amazon stuff? No, their why is I'll get it to you by the end of the day or tomorrow. And they have everybody else's stuff, you know? And that's why people who we have clients who sold on Amazon, they're brutal. They charge you to have your stuff. They charge you, they charge you to store your stuff there so they can sell it. And so some people like they get out of it because it costs more to be on Amazon than they're making from Amazon. Because that's not their why. Their why is we'll get it to you in 3 shakes or a lamb's tail. So this notion of why is something that, yeah, you can, that'll keep you awake at night. You may already know it. You may already have that in you. You just haven't expressed it yet. So I thought that was a good video. Actually, one of the other, Priscilla Cordero, who teaches our Hispanic version of this, she's bilingual. She's a wonderful young lady, and she worked for an SBDC, and she worked. That's another person I forgot to talk about because I never see her. She works at night like I do at school. Her background is in work for an SBDC. She actually is the executive director of the Joliet City Center Partnership. Everything downtown Joliet, all the events that take place down here, that's her. But she also has a background in banking, and so she's very valuable to our organization too. But she was the one who found this one. I thought that was a great one. Now, what kind of steps do we need to get started in starting a business? Now that we've got the why, we're all passionate, we're all jacked up, we want to go. Now we need something to hang this on. So, and we'll talk more about structure as we go forward. But one of the things, there's a few things we need to do. Do some market research. Why do we want to start this business? Is it worth it? And we were just talking about there about, okay, there's 1 million Mexican restaurants in Joliet and in Moore. I mean, even in Morris, we don't have any restaurants, but we have a lot of Mexican restaurants, and I like some better than others. The unique thing is like we go out with one couple all the time. There's one couple there's one restaurant, and we like the other one. Is there anything really definitive? I don't know. I just like that one better. I like the food a little better. I like the people a little better. I like the beer better there. It's the same beer, but I don't know. I just like it better at the other place. So what is it? What in your area? We'll get into more about market research. So we're doing some market research. What is it that you are going to bring to the table here? Choosing your business structure. Now, do you have to say, I'm going to be a retail business model? You have to say it that way, but know what you're going to be. Who are you selling to? Business to business, business to consumer. How are you going to reach them? E-commerce is a great way to do it. Am I going to have a brick and mortar? Am I going to have a restaurant? Am I going to have a food truck? So kind of thinking about, okay, how do I want to approach this? What's the best way to start? Or maybe it's just a conversation you have with a business advisor, which obviously we're happy to do, but thinking these things through. These are the kind of things before my business partner and I left, because we both worked at this engineering firm, before we left, you can imagine when we're going to lunch, we're having these conversations, thinking about how we're going to do it. How are we going to launch this thing? How are we going to do it? Develop a business plan. I wish I'd have known that when I started. I didn't know what a business plan was. And this is from the guy who has a master's degree in business. So, school's great, but I didn't learn how to do a business plan there either. So a business plan is important. We're going to give you basically a template that'll walk you through it. And it isn't hard. And the beautiful thing is there's no wrong answer, except in the financial part. But it's your business. How do you want to structure it? What it is really, it's a working document that says, how am I going to run my business? Now, the beautiful part is it steps you through, kind of leads you through, how is this thing going to be structured? Who's involved in it? What's their expertise? What is my marketing plan? How am I going to do this thing? Makes you think a little bit. So you fill in the blanks, and then you'll go back and you refine it. Like over the years, my business partner and I have changed, although it isn't written down, we changed it. We changed it so much we started another business. We started a broker business because our pure business of being our engineering model was getting antiquated. Customers wanted the broker model. So I started a whole other company, just a broker. Do the same thing in both companies, they just pay 2 different ways. Makes them happy over here. I don't have to write you a check. Nope, don't have to write me a check. How am I going to pay it? Don't worry about it. It'll come out of your electric bill. And then I'll get paid by the supplier. Oh, that's better. It's the same thing. But I feel better when, do you get anybody here about automatic payments set up for stuff? Does it feel better not have to write that check every month? It does for me. And then I don't forget to write it either. So, which is another problem. But try to make things easy for your clients. So as my dad said, people want to buy shoes or sell them shoes. So that's part of what you're thinking about with your structure and your plan. How am I going to, I have a great idea here. How do I get it to these people? How do I get them to see my vision? What's wrong with these people? How come they're not coming to my shop? So that's all part of the planning. Financing your business is huge, because I can tell you that one of the biggest questions people have when they come to us is, can I get a grant? How do I get money? And there's no magic bullet there. And he probably knows more about grants than I do, I'm sure. I don't know. I mean, it's not, financing your business is the hard part. I'm not, and this is when I talk to people, it's like, and I met with actually a young lady who's like, who's the esthetician here? Is there there's a cosmetologist though. Yeah, I met with a young lady who's just got out of esthetician school. She came in because she wanted to start a business, wanted to start a brick and mortar business as an esthetician. And she was a lovely young woman. But she didn't have any clients. She didn't have any money. And she was very young, so her credit wasn't, stellar. It was okay. And she knew that. And she also didn't. And guess what? When you start a business, got a first and month last rent, got to build out the place. So, tens of thousands of dollars to start. She didn't have tens of thousands of dollars. She was 18 years old. So instead, she's going to go rent a chair at another esthetician's location. And then she's going to go from there. She's going to build her credit. She's going to save some money. And she's going to think about, how am I going to finance this? Are there grants out there? Yes, but they are like finding a needle in a haystack many times. Because who gets grants? I'll tell you who gets grants. Us, Joliet Junior College. Institutions that have proven that they can take that money and put it to good use. Me standing right here, guess how I'm paid for? A grant. Yeah. Federal government gave us a grant to start the Entrepreneur Business Center. So I'm getting paid today through a federal grant because they know that this institution has the ability to put enough human beings and resources to use that grant wisely. That's why they don't give grants to me personally, because I know that I would probably sit at home and maybe go play golf. Not necessarily on purpose, but I don't have the resources to implement it well necessarily. Now, are there some grants out there? Yes, there's some. Very niche grants for certain areas and certain businesses, but I wouldn't count on a grant, I guess is the best way to put it. I told Brian Kincaid, who I probably wanted to hear at some point while we're doing this, I told him if we had like bags of money, we'd be a lot more popular with our clients. Because so you want to start a business, which sack of money for you, Brian, and then away you go. Now there are grants out there, and hopefully more grants that do provide funding for clients, but unfortunately, it's not going to be for a restaurant. It's not going to be for our barbershops. It's going to be for something like childcare in an underserved community run by a women-owned business, which exactly, that's who needs the grants. But for us in general, just I'm starting a business, I'm starting a bakery. No, it's going to be on your own dime, on your own credit personally. And I've worked with enough bankers now that I can tell you that the first thing they're going to do, what's your credit score? What's your personal credit score? Because everything they do is going to be on you. What about my business? I have a business. I've got where's Sky Nails? I got Sky Nails. I got a business. We'll talk about how to start. Well, Sky Nails, I'll tell you how it works. If once you're in business for 2 years, they'll talk to you about getting your business credit. Well, once I've been in business for 2 years, do I really need your credit? If I made it 2 years, I'm probably in good shape, to begin with. Now, maybe me to expand, but so they're not going to give your business a loan until you've been in business for 2 years. The loan's going to go to you personally. So your credit score, your financial situation is going to be the key. So that, that's a cold hard truth in financing your business. Now, are there other ways? Yes, we'll talk about more. Go ahead. Yep.
Set up an LLC.
Yep.
Like with it. So then when you're trying to get a grant or more like a grant, with your business, do you apply it to your LLC or you to your personal?
Well, you're applying for a grant. It's going to depend on the grant, quite frankly. The grant's going to be very specific about who's applying for it. Do they want the grant? Is it a personal grant or is it for a business? So that'll be very grant driven, And we'll talk about setting up LLCs and S corps and all those things too. Because that's the next. I want a business. I want a name. I want an LLC. I want a business bank account. We'll talk all about that.
I ask you that question. You're looking for a grant or you're looking money to run your business for yourself to get paid? That's gonna call assistance. That's not gonna call grants. For you to get paid, make money to get a car, that's assistance, and to pay your people. Like the best thing is to make money for yourself. If you don't have credit, they don't care about the business. American Express going to give you $50,000 and you get a bankruptcy. You're not gonna get that money for the business.
No,
you get a bad credit. They're not gonna let you give you $50,000.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been with clients who are, everything looks great. I mean, they got a business that's making money, but it hasn't been in business long enough, doesn't have a credit history, and the owners of the business don't have great credit. They can't even buy a truck. They can't buy a truck that costs as much as a minivan because their credit isn't good enough, even though their business is bringing in $20,000 a month. The cash flow is good enough, but the credit's not good enough for the owner. So credit and financing is huge. So we'll talk more about that. Then choosing a location. Well, my location was in my mudroom for quite a few years. I had to move I had to clean the mudroom out. I got a little carpet tile so it looked fancy. And about every third day, my in-laws would come busting in the back door and right into my office when I was on the phone with clients. And my father-in-law was hard of hearing, and he would start yelling right away. And then my wife would come running down the stairs, "Dad, get out of there!" So where's your business going to be? Could be at home, could be online, could be from anywhere. You could be doing business from a coffee shop. That's a beautiful thing about business today. You don't have to have a spot. You can do it from anywhere. You can do it from the lobby. I remember when my son was hospitalized when he was younger, and I was having a client meeting. I did it from the lobby of a hospital. I ran one of our normal business presenting our product in the lobby of a hospital off of their Wi-Fi, and nobody knew the difference except me. But that's a beautiful thing about business. Now you can do it on a shoestring, or you can do it on and spend millions of dollars. It just depends on the business. So that's it. There's some steps. What are some other steps? This is kind of the fun part. Picking your business name. We're going to go into this in more depth too. So don't think you got to get all this right away. So picking your business name. So think of a good business name. That's fun. Patricia and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, so we'll talk about it later today too. But picking a business name is important. I'll tell you another thing I screwed up. So my business partner and I, we're at lunch. We're trying to pick our business name for our company. We're going through some options. We got it. Great. Let's go. We're going to go to the lawyer, and we're going to get our business started. All right. Make our appointment. Go to 21 years ago, I think it was about $200 an hour for the lawyer. Go to the lawyer's office, sit down. He goes, "Okay, get the paperwork." Got his pen out. "What's the name of your business?" We told him. He went over to the computer, typed it in. The Illinois Secretary of State Business Entity Search, which I'll show you later. No, let's take it. Now what? What's the next name? And we're looking at each other like, So we spent an hour going through business names, paying the lawyer to type names into a computer we could have done at home before we finally came up with a name. And so you can believe me, you're not going to pay for any of this. You'll do all this on your own, come up with a bunch of names, we'll search them out, and then you'll get a name that works. And then maybe 2 or 3 of them. I got a couple other businesses. I've reserved a few other names that I may use someday, just because I thought they were fun. So then registering your business. Now, that has a lot of things. Basically, setting up your LLC, get it registered as a business. Now, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. It can be a sole proprietor, it could be an LLC, be a subchapter S corporation, and then we'll talk about some others, but those are probably the biggest ones. 99.9% of the companies now are LLCs. 21 years ago, LLCs weren't a thing yet. So my businesses are subchapter S corporations, and we'll talk about the difference. It's mostly just more paperwork for the most part. And then you have to get an employer identification number. And in Illinois, it's basically an employee identification number for Illinois, but it's the same number if you need one. Now, the EIN number is what you'll need to open a bank account, to pay employees, that kind of thing. We'll talk about that more. Then once you have a name, you're an LLC, you get your EIN number, then you can open a bank account. Open a bank account. And then you take some of your own money and put it in the bank account. So now you loan the business money. So your accountant can take care of that. You're going to need an accountant too, and a lawyer, and an insurance agent. Wow. So we'll talk more about that. And then you might need a license, might need a permit. Depends what you're doing. Now there's some research that has to go on your own. I had a young lady that came in. She was a body art person. She did tattoos. She started doing them in a garage, which I love her. Whoever she got to do it, and I think it was her mom that she started doing tattoos on. And now she's been doing it for a number of years, wanted to open her own business. And so we worked with her, and it worked out great. Fatina Saeg, our commercial real estate person, helped her tremendously. She was actually working directly with, that's another thing I'll tell you. You're going to need a commercial real estate person when you go looking for space, but we'll talk about that later. Because she was dealing directly with the business owner, and Fatina said, "You're doing what?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm going to meet him this afternoon." She goes, "No, you're not. You're going to get a commercial real estate person to help you, to be your agent, right? Now, they'll take care of this for you. You don't have to pay them, they're brokers. They get paid by the person that rents the space out. But now this person helped her find the space because she was looking onesie, twosie. She didn't have access, just like when you're looking for a house. If you can't get any MLS, now it's hard to find a house. She thought she wanted this space, but then once she got an agent involved, they found a much better space for less money. And she found this beautiful space. She rented it. She's ready to go. And that's what she needed then. A license. She's piercing people's skin. Guess who needs to get involved in that? The state of Illinois. So her business was ready to go. It was built out and standing empty while she waited her license. So this is all a process, and you want to get started sooner rather than later. And then finally, when she got her, but she was also, we'll talk about marketing. She did some great marketing in the meantime. So when she opened her doors, she was already booked for 3 months. So, but that's all part of what this whole process is like. And that's why it's fun to work together and work with business advisors and kind of, we can all share our ideas. So license and permits are another thing we'll kind of work through. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the business plan too. Now, what is a business plan? I think I already leaked that story, but excuse me. It is this roadmap of how your business is going to operate. So it's really telling the story of your business. Now, at the beginning, there's some key components as they put about here. The executive summary, and I actually added it can be done at the end because, you know what, after you're done kind of going through all the parts, then you can kind of summarize it. It's almost like your elevator pitch. Here's what my business is. Here's what I am about. Here's my why. And now, if you can put it at the beginning, great. But you don't have to. You can kind of come back to that because you're going through all these different pieces. That's what's going to be the part that tells the story of your business. And this will be in the template we provide. One's going to be the company description. You know, kind of that more of the what. You know, what are we? That kind of thing. Looking at a market analysis, back to your market research. Now, I gotta admit, I kind of backed into ours because I've been doing it when I started our company. We already knew that the most profitable customers were the big ones. So we knew that already. We knew where they were. We knew where they were because I worked at ComEd. I knew the top 1,500, that there was 1,500 customers at ComEd that gave them a third of their revenue. 1,500 customers gave them a third of their revenue. So guess who my target market was? That 1,500 customers. That's the ones I want. Now, ones below that would be okay, but I knew that was the big fish. So it wasn't hard for me because I knew already. I'd already done the market research because I was just living in it. It's kind of like you're a baker. You already know what people eat. You know what you love to make. You know what people might want. And some of you here are probably already doing this already. So your market research is kind of done, except for where you're going to put your business. Where's the best place to locate this thing so you get people to come to you. So that's part of the market analysis. And then we'll talk a little bit about it. And I have to learn a little about myself because Priscilla has this great tool she uses at the Joliet City Center partnership to talk about traffic patterns and number of cars going by and all of that if you have a brick and mortar location, which is important if you have a brick and mortar location. You don't want the one spot around the corner that nobody goes by. I can tell you one spot in Morris, and Morris isn't a big town. There's been like 4 restaurants, bakeries, shops in this one little plaza that always fail. It's because nobody goes by. I mean, it's right off the main street, but it's about as far away as that microwave is in the back. It's not right here. It's right over there. I can see it, but I'm not going to go by it. If I don't go by it, I'm not going to pull in and see what they have. I'm just going to keep going down the street. So I think it might be a traffic problem for them, but there's different ways to do this research that are available. And then kind of the organization of your place. Now, like in your case, the grandkids, the organization is going to be. You're going to be the CEO. You're going to rent the space, and your grandkids are going to rent space from you. They're going to rent their chair, as they call it in the business. They're going to rent a chair from you, and then you're going to soak them for like 70% of their revenues. Teach them a lesson while they're young. But that is part of what, and I have a young lady who's a barber, and that is part of the whole negotiation. Like the young lady that was a tattoo artist, when she started out, because she was apprenticing, with this other place, she was giving him basically 70% of all of her revenues went to the owner. And then over time went 60-40, and finally it was 50-50. Well, then she went on her own. Guess what the split was? She got 100%. So, but now you got all the responsibility. Now you got to pay the bills. Now you got to do all the management. When you rent a chair, you're your own business, but I don't have to worry about the lights being on. I'm just renting my chair. Now, in some cases, and this is the barbershop business is different. Some cases it'll be, okay, the share's gonna be X dollars a week, and then you keep all your revenues, or I won't charge anything, but I get a piece of the action when you get business. So again, it's a negotiation, but that's part of that business. So the organization and management of your business is gonna be different because your business is gonna be different than the next person's business. That's where that market research and analysis goes in. What's the world like in my business? How do they bill? Even in my world, I didn't know how the brokers did it really, because I'm an engineer and I'm looking through this keyhole and they're looking through this one. I can only see this much, right? And that's part of the problem of being in business. You can't see what everybody else is doing. You can only see you. So that's where that analysis and research comes in. So once you figure out how you're going to be organized and managed, I'm getting pretty good at this computer thing. Now you're going to talk about some of those other key components. What are my products or services going to be? When they talked about it in our Y video, Apple started out making computers. Well, along the line somewhere, Steve Jobs, had a vision. And so then he came up with the iPod. You might remember the iPod, the ubiquitous iPod. I mean, for a long time, and again, I'm showing my age, but Walkmans were the big thing. Sony Walkman, that was a big deal. And then you got the iPods, which are huge. And then they came up with the iPhone, and it was like, what the hell? It's a piece of glass, but you can talk to people on this piece of glass. What the hell? So he changed things, and then iPad came along. I mean, I use an iPad all the time now. I read books on an iPad. I said I never would, but I'm getting older and I can see that iPad a lot better than I can see a book. So, and I even have, my son had it. He got an Apple Watch, but he kept telling me to breathe because it was checking his pulse and stuff. And he gets a little nervous sometimes. And he took it off. Said, I can't stand that thing. He's telling me to breathe. So I wear that sometimes, but they're ubiquitous now. He's kind of infiltrated us. So what are your products or services going to be? Are you going to focus on one thing, or are you going to focus on a lot of things? You've seen businesses that have failed because they started out with one thing, then they started to do more things. His gateway computer advice is good. Guess what? There's no gateway computers anymore. They're gone. But it wasn't because they went to TVs, but sometimes people expand too much or too far. You guys like Krispy Kreme donuts? Any more around here? No. They expanded too fast. They took on too much debt. So speaking of finances, they were over leveraged. So they weren't making enough money at the stores to pay the bills. So guess what? They got to close the store. So that's all part of the products and services. What am I going to offer? How much can I make? That gets down to break-even analysis. We'll talk a little bit about. Then marketing. How am I going to market? Billboards? Yellow pages? No. Web presence? Just Facebook? Social media? How am I going to market? What's the best for my industry? How do you market in your industry that you're thinking about? You got to think about that. Do research in it if you have to. And then this always gets I got finance. But that's at the end of the day, what do you win? I know that that's a result, but we're not doing this. You are, because it's not for profit, but you still got to make money because you can't. Hospitals are not for profit. How's that working out for you guys? They still make a ton of money, and all the extra money, guess what they call it? Profits? No, it's just called excess revenue. I wish I had excess revenue. I call it profit. So no matter what your business is, you still need to make money. You need to generate revenue. And even when you generate revenue, you have to generate enough revenue all the time to pay the rent, to pay the light bill, to pay the insurance, to pay your employees, to order food, all those things. The money's got to keep coming. It isn't just one big job. It's one job after another. So that financing request has to be, a lot of times businesses fail because they don't have enough money. They can open, but then they don't have enough money they don't have enough money for operating expenses to get by those hard times. You need to have basically a little, just like at home, you need to have a rainy day fund, like the state of Illinois. You got to get by in those hard times. And so financing is important. The financial section will talk about, well, what do I think my revenues are going to be? You've probably been through this in the baking thing. What do my revenues look like over time? If you've been operating already, you have an idea. But if you're guessing, well, I need to do some research. What is the revenue from a place like mine? Can I find that out? Well, if you can't Google it and find it, you probably can't find it anymore. We used to have to go to the library and look it up in industrial magazines. But so that'll be the key parts of it. The appendices, that's only worried about that right now. But these are kind of key things, because I know I want to do this, but then you have all this hard part, the marketing, the finance, all that other thinking that needs to be done. That's all part of the business plan, which we'll go to in more depth. Now, a few minutes left, thank goodness. So, how can you get extra help? Well, obviously, we're here to help you, the JJC Entrepreneur Business Center. So that's one great resource. Another one is the Jolio Latino Economic Development Association. That's who this whole program was created in conjunction with to begin with. We did it together, and now we're continuing that partnership. We're continuing to teach this in both languages. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish. I barely speak English. But we continue to do this. Now we're going to be running this more and more often so that we can get more people involved, and then hopefully bring you in, and we can work with us. You can also work with them.